I never thought I'd find myself digging through my parents' office at midnight, but desperation makes you do crazy things. The dim light from my phone barely illuminated the stacks of papers as I searched for my college acceptance letter. Mom had misplaced it earlier that day, right after I'd mentioned needing their financial information for my student aid application. My name is Cal, and until tonight, I'd been the perfect daughter, quiet, obedient, and painfully invisible next to my golden boy brother Jasper. The drawer creaked as I pulled it open, making me freeze. Down the hall, my parents' steady snoring continued. I let out a breath and kept searching. That's when I saw it, a thick envelope with my grandparents' return address postmarked 3 months ago. Strange. I hadn't received anything from them recently. My hand shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and what looked like legal documents. The first line made my stomach drop. "Dearest Callahan, we want you to know about the education fund we've set up for you." Education fund? What education fund? I kept reading, my vision blurring as I took in the details. $20,000 specifically earmarked for my college education. The letter was dated well before my college acceptance, back when I was still trying to convince my parents that university was worth considering. "We know your dreams are bigger than the small-town life your parents envision," my grandmother wrote. "This money is yours to use, no strings attached." The documents showed everything: account numbers, transfer details, signatures. But I'd never seen a penny of it. My parents had received this months ago and never said a word. A floorboard creaked behind me. "What are you doing in here?" I spun around to find my mother in her silk robe, arms crossed. The letter crinkled in my tight grip. "When were you going to tell me about this?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. She glanced at the paper and something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe? Disappeared so fast I might have imagined it. "That money is being put to better use," she said, reaching for the letter. "Your brother's new business venture. You gave my college fund to Jasper?" The words felt like glass in my throat. "Keep your voice down," she hissed. "This is what's best for the family. Jasper has real potential. And I don't. Don't be dramatic, Callahan. You can take classes at the community college like we discussed. Jasper needs this investment for his future, for his engagement to Serena. You understand that, don't you?" I looked at my mother, really looked at her. Her perfectly styled hair, even at midnight. The way she held herself like she was always being photographed for the local society pages. Everything had to be perfect in her world, and somehow I'd never quite fit into that picture. "No," I said quietly. "I don't understand at all." I folded the letter and slipped it into my pocket before she could grab it. "I'm calling Grandma and Grandpa in the morning." "You will do no such thing." Her voice had that sharp edge I knew too well. "This is a family matter, and it's been decided." "You're right about one thing," I said, moving past her toward the door. "It is a family matter. And Grandma and Grandpa are family too. Callahan Reed, if you walk out that door..." I didn't hear the rest. I was already halfway down the hall, my heart pounding with a strange mix of anger and something else, freedom maybe. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother clearly, and with that clarity came a decision. I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. Grandma Maeve's guest room felt more like home after just 3 days than my old bedroom ever did. The morning sun streamed through lace curtains as I unpacked the last of my clothes, trying not to think about the dozen missed calls from my mother. The sound of china clinking downstairs drew me to the kitchen, where Grandma was setting out her good tea service. She looked up with that knowing smile of hers. "Your mother's coming over," she said, placing a third cup on the tray. "Thought we might need the fancy cups for this one." My stomach clenched. "How did she..." "Small town, sweetheart. The Martha from the grocery store saw you helping your grandfather with the groceries yesterday." She paused, adjusting a napkin. "Your mother wasn't pleased to hear it from her instead of us." "Of course. Heaven forbid the town gossips catch wind of any Reed family drama before my mother could control the narrative." Right on cue, the doorbell chimed. Grandma squeezed my hand before going to answer it. I heard them in the foyer, my mother's practiced laugh, the click of her heels on hardwood. When they entered the kitchen, Mom was wearing her charity board smile, the one that never quite reached her eyes. "Callahan," she said, as if we were meeting at a garden party. "This little tantrum has gone on long enough, don't you think?" "Lila," Grandma's voice carried a warning. "That's not why we're here." "You're right, Mother." Mom sat primly at the kitchen table. "We're here because my daughter is being unreasonable about family obligations." "Unreasonable?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You stole my college fund and gave it to Jasper. How is that reasonable? We redistributed family resources where they would do the most good." She stirred her tea with precise movements. "Your brother's business venture will benefit everyone. The connections he's making through Serena's family alone." "I don't care about connections." Teacup rattled as I set it down too hard. "I care about my future. The one you decided wasn't worth investing in. The community college has perfectly adequate programs." "That's enough." Grandma's voice cut through the tension. She turned to my mother. "Lila, do you remember when you were 18? When you wanted to study art in Paris?" Mom's hand froze mid-stir. "That was different." "Was it?" "'Cause I remember a young woman with dreams bigger than this town, who cried for days when her father said no." Grandma leaned forward. "You swore you'd never do that to your own children." "I grew up," Mom snapped. "I learned what really matters. Kata's security." "Living someone else's life?" I asked quietly. The look she gave me could have frozen hell. "You have no idea what sacrifice means, what it takes to maintain a family's position in society. Your father and I have worked too hard to let you throw away everything on some foolish dream of independence." "The only thing foolish here," Grandma said, "is thinking you can control your children's lives forever." Mom stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I see you've both made up your minds. But remember this, Callahan, actions have consequences. If you insist on this path, don't expect any support from your father and me." "You mean like the support you've already shown by stealing my college fund?" She flinched, just slightly, but I saw it. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes, regret maybe, or fear. Then it was gone, replaced by that perfect mask again. "I'll see myself out," she said, turning toward the door. She paused, not looking back. "Your brother's engagement dinner is Saturday. The whole town will be there. It would look better if you attended." After she left, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Grandma wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Well," she said, "that went about as well as expected." "I don't understand her," I whispered. "How can she just? Your mother lost herself a long time ago, trying to be what everyone else wanted." Grandma picked up the untouched teacups. "The question is, are you ready to fight for who you want to be?" I thought about the engagement dinner, about facing the whole town while playing happy families, about Jasper, who probably had no idea what our parents had done. "Yes," I said. "I think I am." Country club ballrooms sparkled with champagne flutes and fake smiles. I adjusted my thrift store dress, feeling like an imposter among the designer labels and pearl necklaces. Jasper's engagement dinner was exactly the kind of event my mother lived for, all surface shine and strategic social positioning. "Cal!" Jasper's voice cut through the murmur of conversation. He weaved through the crowd, Serena by his side. "You came." "Wouldn't miss it," I lied, accepting his hug. Close, I noticed the shadows under his eyes, poorly concealed. Serena squeezed my hand. "I'm so glad you're here. Jasper's been worried sick since he left home." Before I could respond, Mom materialized beside us, perfect smile firmly in place. "Darling, the Walshes want to discuss the wedding venue." "And Callahan," her voice cooled several degrees, "your father needs a word." Dad waited by the bar, nursing what I knew wouldn't be his first scotch of the evening. His shoulders were tight under his expensive suit. The prodigal daughter returns, he said, not looking at me. Dad, your mother tells me you're being difficult about the wedding arrangements. I blinked. What arrangements? Don't play dumb, Callahan. The loan paperwork needs your signature. The Walshes are contributing significantly, but we need to match their investment to maintain appearances. What loan paperwork? He finally turned to me, irritation clear in his expression. The papers we discussed last week about using your trust fund as collateral. Your mother said she explained everything. The room tilted slightly. My trust fund? The one Grandma and Grandpa set up for my education? The one you and Mom already gave to Jasper? Dad's face reddened. Keep your voice down. This isn't the place. When is the place? My voice shook. When you forged my signature. When you've stolen even more of my future. Everything we do is for this family's future, he hissed. Your brother's marriage to Serena will secure our position. Your position, I corrected. Not mine. Never mine. A sharp laugh escaped me, drawing curious glances from nearby guests. You know what's funny? I came tonight hoping there was still something worth saving. But you're still trying to take what little I have left. You're being melodramatic. Is everything all right? Jasper appeared beside us, frowning. Perfect timing, I said, turning to my brother. Did you know about my trust fund? The one funding your new business? Jasper's confusion seemed genuine. What trust fund? The education fund from Grandma and Grandpa. Mom and Dad redirected it to your business venture months ago. And now they want me to take out a loan for your wedding. Color drained from Jasper's face. He turned to our father. Dad, this isn't the time or place. When is? I demanded again, louder this time. Heads turned. Mom appeared, panic flickering behind her perfect mask. Callahan, you're making a scene. No, Mother. I'm finally speaking up. I faced the growing crowd of onlookers. You want to talk about family obligations? Let's talk about how you stole my college fund. How you're trying to force me into debt for a wedding I can't afford. How everything in this family revolves around keeping up appearances while you tear us apart from the inside. That's enough. Dad grabbed my arm. Jasper stepped between us. Let her go. The room fell silent. Mom's carefully constructed world cracked visibly as whispers started. I'm done, I said quietly, pulling free. Done being the family's sacrifice. Done watching you destroy everything real in the name of appearances. I turned to Jasper. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't watch this anymore. As I walked out, I heard Serena's voice behind me. Jasper, did you know about this? And then my brother's response, soft but clear. No, but I'm going to find out. Sighed in the cool night air, my hands shook as I texted Grandma to pick me up. The facade had finally cracked, and through that crack, I caught a glimpse of something I hadn't expected, not just anger or revenge, but the possibility of truth setting us all free, even if it had to break us first. The email from Sterling and Associates lit up my phone screen at 3 a.m. I'd been obsessively checking since submitting my internship application last week, but now that the moment had arrived, my finger hovered uncertainly over the notification. Grandpa Arthur found me on the back porch an hour later, still staring at my unopened email. Can't sleep? He settled into the chair beside me, offering a steaming mug of cocoa. They offered me the internship, I said quietly. His face broke into a proud smile. That's wonderful news. It's in New York. Ah, he understood immediately. New York meant leaving everything behind, the town, the drama, the constant weight of family expectations. It meant really choosing myself for the first time. My phone buzzed. Jasper's name flashed on the screen. You should answer it, Grandpa said, squeezing my shoulder as he stood. Some bridges are worth keeping, even if others need to burn. I waited until he was inside before accepting the call. Hey, stranger, Jasper's voice was soft, careful. Got a minute? Sure. I've been doing some digging since the engagement dinner. He paused. There's more, Cal. More than just your trust fund. My stomach clenched. What do you mean? Mom and Dad. They've been using Grandma and Grandpa's money for years. Country club memberships, their social circle, my private school tuition, it all came from the Sterling Family Trust. They've been living on credit and appearances. Cocoa turned bitter in my mouth. How did you find out? Serena's father is a financial advisor. He's been helping me understand the business venture Dad wants me to take over. His voice cracked slightly. It's all smoke and mirrors, Cal. They're drowning in debt, and they're trying to use my marriage to Serena to save themselves. Pieces clicked into place: Mom's obsession with status, Dad's drinking, their desperate need to control everything and everyone around them. Does Serena know? Yes. He sounded tired. She's been amazing, actually. Wants me to walk away from all of it, start fresh. Are you going to? A long pause. I don't know. But there's something else you should know. Mom's planning to contest Grandma and Grandpa's trust. She's claiming they're mentally unfit to manage their own finances. The world tilted sideways. She can't do that. She's already filed the paperwork. That's why I'm calling. You need to warn them. My free hand clenched into a fist. When? The hearing's next week. Cal, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what they were doing sooner. The unopened email seemed to pulse on my screen. New York suddenly felt like both an escape and an abandonment. What are you going to do? I asked. I don't know, he repeated. But whatever happens, I want you to know I'm on your side this time. Really on your side. After we hung up, I finally opened the email. The internship offer was everything I dreamed of: prestigious firm, excellent pay, potential for permanent position after graduation. My ticket out. But Grandma and Grandpa's faces flashed in my mind. They'd taken me in, supported my dreams, given me back my sense of worth. And now my mother was trying to destroy them too. My fingers moved across the screen, typing out a response to Sterling and Associates. Thank you for the incredible opportunity. I need to request a delayed start date of 3 weeks. The sun was rising when Grandma found me still on the porch. One look at my face and she knew something was wrong. What is it, sweetheart? We need to talk, I said, standing up. All of us. And then we need to call a lawyer. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll put on some coffee. This sounds like a conversation that needs caffeine. As she turned to go inside, I caught her arm. Grandma, thank you. For everything. She smiled, but her eyes were sad. Family protects family, dear. The real kind of family, not the kind that just looks good in photographs. I looked down at my phone one last time, at the acceptance email in Jasper's text thread. Sometimes choosing yourself means choosing who to fight for. And sometimes revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting free. Courthouse steps felt endless as I climbed them beside our lawyer, Sarah Chen. My mother's accusations of mental incompetence against my grandparents had spread through town like wildfire, exactly as she'd planned. Now everyone was choosing sides. Remember, Sarah said, adjusting her briefcase, let me do the talking. Your mother's lawyer will try to provoke an emotional response. Inside, Mom sat with her perfectly styled hair and designer suit, looking more like she was attending a charity luncheon than trying to destroy her own parents. Dad slouched beside her, already showing signs of a hangover. Grandma and Grandpa walked in with quiet dignity, holding hands. The sight of them made my throat tight. All rise, the bailiff called. The hearing started with Mom's lawyer painting a picture of elderly confusion and financial mismanagement. He presented bank statements showing large withdrawals, my college fund, conveniently omitting that my parents had redirected it to Jasper's business. Then came the character assassination. We have multiple witnesses, Mom's lawyer declared, who can testify to Callahan Reed's manipulation of her grandparents, taking advantage of their declining faculties for her own financial gain. My hands clenched under the table. Sarah touched my arm in warning. Furthermore, he continued, Mrs. Reed has evidence that her daughter has a history of emotional instability and poor decision-making. A manila envelope appeared. Inside were printouts of private text messages between Jasper and me discussing our parents' financial schemes. Messages I thought were secure. Mom's face remained perfectly composed, but I caught the slight upturn of her lips. She'd been monitoring our phones all along. The judge reviewed the documents while my stomach churned. Then he asked the question that changed everything. Where is Jasper Reed? These messages indicate he has relevant testimony. My son is unavailable, Your Honor, Mom said smoothly. He's focused on his upcoming wedding and new business venture. Courthouse doors opened. Actually, Jasper's voice rang out, I'm right here. He walked in with Serena beside him, both in professional attire. Mom's mask cracked for the first time as her golden child approached the bench. Your Honor, Jasper said, I have documentation proving that my parents have been systematically draining my grandparents' accounts for years, using the money to maintain their social status while accumulating massive debt. Mom's lawyer jumped up. Objection. This is irrelevant to the competency hearing. I'll allow it, the judge said, studying the new papers Jasper presented. I watched my mother's face as her carefully constructed world began to crumble. Her eyes darted between Jasper and me, calculating, searching for control. Jasper, she said, her voice honey-sweet. Sweetheart, you don't understand the complexity. I understand perfectly, he cut her off. I understand how you manipulated all of us. How you're trying to declare your own parents incompetent to cover up your financial fraud. How you monitored our phones and used our private conversations against us. The judge cleared his throat. Mrs. Reed, these allegations are serious. If verified, they could result in criminal charges. Mom stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Everything I've done has been for this family. To maintain our position, our respect. No, I said, finally finding my voice. It was for your position, your respect, and you were willing to destroy everyone else to keep it. She turned to me, eyes blazing. You ungrateful little... That's enough, the judge interrupted. Based on the evidence presented, I'm dismissing the competency petition. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full investigation into the financial allegations. Mrs. Reed, Mr. Reed, I suggest you retain criminal defense counsel. As security approached my parents, Mom's perfect mask shattered completely. You'll regret this, she hissed at me. Both of you will regret choosing them over family. No, Mother, Jasper said quietly. We're choosing real family over appearances. There's a difference. Standing between my brother and my grandparents, I watched my parents being led to separate police cars. The victory felt hollow, tasting more like ashes than justice. You okay? Jasper asked. I looked at my phone, at the delayed internship acceptance, still waiting for a final answer. I will be. We all will be. Sometimes winning means losing everything you thought you needed, only to find what you really wanted was there all along. The bail hearing was set for Thursday, but Mom managed to get released early. Money talks, even when you're being investigated for financial fraud. I shouldn't have been surprised to find her waiting in Grandma's kitchen Tuesday morning, perfectly composed in her Chanel suit. We need to discuss the wedding, she said, as if the past week hadn't happened. Grandma stood protectively beside me. Lila, you shouldn't be here. It's my daughter's wedding, Mom replied smoothly. Of course I should be here. I'm not getting married, I said, confused. Her smile turned sharp. No, dear. Jasper's wedding. Though I suppose you wouldn't know the details since you've been so preoccupied with destroying our family. She pulled out a thick folder and placed it on the kitchen table. These are the loan documents you signed last year. The ones funding the wedding venue, the catering, everything. I never signed anything. Really? She spread out several papers, each bearing my signature. The bank seems to think otherwise. My blood ran cold as I examined the documents. The signatures looked real, perfect copies of my own handwriting. When did you... You left so many school permission slips lying around over the years, she said casually. It was simple enough to practice. Grandma reached for the phone. I'm calling Sarah. Go ahead, Mom said. But consider this, a fraud investigation will delay the wedding. Serena's family will withdraw their support. Jasper will lose everything he's worked for. Is that what you want, Callahan? To destroy your brother's happiness too? My hands shook as I looked at the loan amounts. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, all in my name. You're bluffing, I said, but my voice wavered. Am I? She stood, straightening her jacket. The Walsh family values reputation above all. One hint of scandal and they'll pull Serena out faster than you can say family shame. Just ask your father, he's already drinking himself to sleep over what you've done to us. What I've done? The words caught in my throat. You're the one who what? Protected this family? Maintained our position? Everything I did was for you children, and this is how you repay me. Her voice cracked, showing real emotion for the first time. You have until tomorrow to withdraw the fraud allegations. Otherwise, I submit these documents to the bank. After she left, I sank into a kitchen chair, the weight of her threat crushing my chest. We'll fight this, Grandma said firmly. Sarah will know what to do. My phone buzzed, a text from Jasper. Just heard from Mom. Is it true about the loans? Another buzz. Serena's parents are asking questions. They're talking about postponing everything. A third, Cal, please. I can't lose this too. I stared at the loan documents, at my forged signature repeated over and over. Mom had planned this perfectly, my word against hers, with Jasper's happiness as collateral damage. Cal, Grandma touched my shoulder. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about Jasper, I said quietly. About how he stood up for me in court. About how he's finally happy with Serena. This isn't your responsibility, isn't it? I looked up at her, feeling the weight of every decision that had led to this moment. Mom's right about one thing, the Walshes will run at the first sign of scandal. Jasper will lose Serena, his future, everything. And what about your future? Grandma demanded. Your internship? Your dreams? I touched the loan papers, tracing my forged signature. Maybe some dreams cost too much. My phone buzzed again, the internship coordinator asking for my final decision. Cursor blinked at me, waiting for a response that would either save my brother's happiness or preserve my own future. Sometimes the hardest choices aren't between right and wrong, but between two different kinds of sacrifice. And sometimes revenge isn't worth the collateral damage it leaves behind. I picked up my phone and started typing, knowing that whatever I decided, something irreplaceable would be lost. The church bells were already ringing when I pulled into the parking lot. Guests in designer suits and summer dresses filed through the heavy wooden doors while I sat in my car, staring at the manila envelope on the passenger seat. Inside was every piece of evidence Sarah had gathered, years of forged signatures, fraudulent accounts, and financial manipulation. Everything needed to bring my mother down once and for all, and destroy Jasper's wedding in the process. I grabbed the envelope and headed for the church's side entrance. The bridal suite door was ajar, voices drifting out. Can't reach the bank until Monday, Mom was saying. Everything's arranged, Jasper. Just trust me. Like I trusted you about Cal's college fund? I froze outside the door. Your sister made her choices, Mom replied smoothly. But today is about you and Serena. Don't let Cal's drama ruin this too. Drama? Jasper's voice cracked. You forged her signature, Mom. Put her in debt for my wedding without even telling me. I did what was necessary. No. Serena's voice now, sharp and clear. You did what was easy. Using Cal to fix your mistakes was easy. Lying to everyone was easy. I pushed the door open. Mom stood in her mother of the groom dress, perfect as always, while Jasper and Serena faced her in their wedding attire. Cal. Mom's smile didn't reach her eyes. I thought we had an understanding about today. We do. I held up the envelope. I'm here to make things right. By destroying your brother's wedding? How selfless of you. Actually, I turned to Jasper. I'm here to save it. I pulled out the bank documents, the real ones showing Mom's years of fraud. These prove everything. The forged signatures, the stolen money, all of it. Mom's mask cracked slightly. Callahan, think about what you're doing. I have. I handed the papers to Jasper. But there's something else you should see first. I produced a second document, my withdrawal from the fraud investigation, already signed and dated. What is this? Jasper asked. My surrender. I met Mom's startled gaze. You win, Mother. The investigation ends today. The loans stay in my name. Your reputation stays intact. Cal, no, Serena stepped forward. You can't. I can. And I will. I turned back to Mom. But here's what happens next. You're going to sign over your share of Grandma and Grandpa's trust to me. All of it. And you're going to leave them and me alone. Mom's laugh was brittle. Or what? Or these papers go to the police anyway. Maybe not today, maybe not this week, but someday. When you least expect it. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering when everything will fall apart. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? You taught me well, Mother. About leverage. About control. About using people's fears against them. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of manipulation and hurt. Finally, Mom reached for her designer purse, pulled out a pen. You've become quite calculating, Callahan. I learned from the best. She signed the trust transfer with her perfect signature, her real one this time. As she handed it back, something flickered in her eyes. Pride? Regret? I couldn't tell anymore. The ceremony starts in 10 minutes, she said quietly. I should check on the guests. After she left, Jasper grabbed my arm. Cal, you can't do this. Those loans are worth it, I finished. Your happiness is worth it, but your future is still mine to choose. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Besides, I already accepted the internship. Turns out New York firms pay pretty well. Serena hugged me. You're something else, Cal Reed. Speaking of which, I pulled away, straightening Jasper's bow tie. Don't you two have a wedding to get to? As the music started playing and Jasper took his place at the altar, I slipped into a back pew. Mom sat in the front row, perfect posture, perfect smile, perfectly alone. Sometimes winning isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about choosing which battles matter most and finding victory in letting go of the rest. 6 months after the wedding, New York felt more like home than our small town ever had. My apartment was tiny, but the view of the city lights made up for it. I was reviewing case files for tomorrow's meeting when my phone buzzed with Jasper's FaceTime call. Aunt Cal. Serena's voice came through first, followed by the image of her holding up a sonogram. Say hello to your future niece. Papers scattered as I sat up straight. A girl? When did you find out? This morning. Jasper appeared beside her, grinning. We wanted you to be the first to know. Have you told Mom and Dad? His smile faded slightly. No. And we're not going to, not yet. Dad's still in rehab and Mom, well, you know Mom. I did know. The last I'd heard, she was living in a smaller house across town, still attending charity functions but no longer running them. Queen had lost her crown, but she was hanging on to what remained of her kingdom. Grandma and Grandpa are coming for dinner, Serena said, changing the subject. They miss you. I miss them too. I glanced at my calendar, marked with upcoming court dates and client meetings. But this case is huge and nothing, Jasper cut in. Family dinner next weekend. No excuses. Family dinner. The words still made my stomach clench, even now. But when I looked at their faces, Jasper's quiet strength, Serena's warm smile, I realized the phrase had taken on a new meaning. Okay, I said. Next weekend. After we hung up, I found myself pulling out the letter that had arrived last week. Mom's perfect handwriting on expensive stationery, still unopened. The doorbell rang before I could change my mind about reading it. When I opened the door, Sarah Chin stood there, looking exactly as she had in the courthouse months ago. Your mother's contesting the trust transfer, she said without preamble. She can't. The paperwork was filed incorrectly. Deliberately, I suspect. Sarah's eyes narrowed. She played us, Cal. She knew all along there was a loophole. I should have felt angry, betrayed, ready for another fight. Instead, I found myself laughing. What's funny? Sarah asked. All of it. I picked up Mom's letter from the coffee table. She never cared about the money. She cared about control. About having one last card to play. So, what do you want to do? I broke the seal on the letter, finally reading my mother's words. Dearest Callahan, you've become everything I feared, strong enough to break free, brave enough to choose your own path. Everything I never was. Trust is yours if you still want it. But I hope you've learned what I never could, that true worth isn't measured in bank accounts or social standing. You won, darling. Not because you beat me, but because you chose to walk away. Mom, I handed the letter to Sarah. File a countermotion. Not to keep the trust, but to split it, half to Jasper's baby, half to a scholarship fund for local students. Are you sure? After everything she did, I'm sure. I looked out at the city lights, thinking of Jasper's daughter, of choices and consequences, of the difference between revenge and redemption. Some victories aren't about winning or losing. They're about choosing who you want to become. Later that night, I sent 2 texts. To Jasper, your daughter's trust fund is taken care of. Tell her Aunt Cal says welcome to the family. And after a long pause, to Mom, thank you for the letter. Coffee next weekend? Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with lawyers or evidence, but with the choice to break cycles instead of people. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well on your own terms with the family you choose along the way.